Welcome to this episode of First Time Hustle. I'm Kim McCarty.
And I'm Dave Stahl.
All right. So today I want to talk about, because the buzzword out there right now is inflation, right? Ooh, the buzzword. But I want to talk about inflation and maybe inflation proofing. Proofing might not be the right word, but inflation proofing and why buying real estate could actually help you when inflation is going up or even when inflation goes down. At why real estate is a good investment, especially as a first-time home buyer versus renting, why that would be better.
And I looked at the numbers we're going to talk about.
Right.
But I think that the biggest thing to keep it simple,
right,
is if you can fix your cost, you are inflation proofing.
Very true.
And I think that that's what buying does over renting, because renting every year, your rent's going to go up.
100% correct.
Because,
But everyone will say to you, would like to combat what you're saying is, well, so does your payment when you are owning. Well, yes, because your interest or your insurance and your taxes are going to go up as well. Taxes may come down, but not really, right? So, but also with your mortgage payment, your principal and interest is consistent. So you know that going in. With a rent payment, we know that the landlord, if their taxes are going up, well, what's your rent going to do? It's going to go up. Now, where you may not be spending as much per month is probably on a renter's insurance policy versus a homeowner's insurance policy, because we know that that's a little different.
But the difference is, at least here in Texas, there are caps as far as how much your taxes can go up.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that changes on rental properties is
there is not cap.
There are no caps.
Correct.
And obviously state by state, municipality by municipality. But
of course,
most of the time, if it's an investment property, there's not a cap on how much those can go up each year. And that's why people look at rent and they go, oh, if I renew and I do a longer term lease, they're going to give me a break. Mm-hmm. But if I want to go month to month, it's escalated.
Correct.
And because there's no controls on that insurance and taxes from an investment property point of view.
Right. Okay. So I just went and looked and just did some digging on what would the difference be between 1 year versus as a renter versus an owner. So this is considering a 4% appreciation rate. The average over the last 50 years has been 3 point something. So I just did 4%. Okay.
Well, what does appreciation mean to somebody? So if you say it's 4% appreciation and I have a $100,000 house, at the end of year one, what is my house worth?
$4,000 more.
So $104,000.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what appreciation is. So, that 4% is an extra $4,000 in value if it's a $100,000 house.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this isn't even taking into consideration what you're paying down in your principal as you're making these payments, right? So this is just a very basic, if you will, appreciation versus renters. So let's say in this scenario, the rent was $1,650 a month. Well, that's really hard to find, but let's just say $1,650 a month. Year one, you're going to pay a little over $20,000 towards rent, correct? Okay. Well, in year one, if you're going to buy your house, and this is based on a $257 price point, okay? If the first year you've got that 4% appreciation, you're going to make $10,228
in equity.
In equity.
Okay.
In equity. Now, again, this doesn't have anything to do with what you've paid down towards your principal.
Okay.
Year two.
What's my monthly payment on that 257 house?
I don't know. It didn't tell me what the payment would be on that.
Okay.
Well, you're better at that. What do you think that?
Rough shot guess, $1,850.
Okay.
Based on today's rates?
So probably very similar to a renter, plus or minus a couple $100.
But
year one.
But you gain $10,000 in equity.
Yes.
So the difference of $200 in cost over the course of a year is $2,400. So really, I'm in the positive by, let's call it $8 grand net.
Yeah.
Okay.
Year two. Now, if we stay in the same house and the rent doesn't go up, right? Okay. Now we're at like 41,000. They figured it went up a little bit, but not a whole lot. Now we're at 41,000 and change. Year two at my house, it's now worth 265, 225 with just 4% appreciation. And now I'm sitting on 20,878 equity. Okay. So now let's jump to year 5. Let's just jump to year 5. Year 5, I am now have spent over $107,000 paying, I want to say this, paying the landlord's mortgage.
And the landlord loves you.
And the landlord is saying, thank you so much.
You want to stay 5 more years?
Exactly. And that is with minimal rent increases at $107,000. Then if we go to year 5 on our homeowner, they now are sitting at $289,000, almost $290,000, and they've made $55,500 in equity. And that, again, has nothing to do with the principal pay down that they've made. So if they were to go sell that house, they're going to make some substantial money. But the key on this is that we're looking to make not only the equity here for them, but we've preached this. If our first-time home buyers would hold that first home and not sell it and then turn around and rent it out over here, what kind of wealth are we creating by doing that? So I think when people think about, well, this may not be the right time to buy because interest rates are higher, right? What we like to say is interest rates are actually very normal. It's that we got used to that abnormal 3-4%. And do you think we're going to see that anytime soon again?
No.
We may not see that, I mean, dare we say, in our lifetime again?
Well, I thought I had read something, and I don't remember exactly what the source was, but at some point in the mid-'80s, when rates were high, people were like, oh, I'm going to wait for the rates to get back down to like 6%. And
Right.
I think that if you waited for those rates to get back to where they were
I do remember this.
pre-hike,
Yeah.
it was like 18 or 21 years that you would have continued to rent
Right.
before you decided to buy, which by your calculation
We'd be
is
at like 250,000 by then.
yeah, $250,000 that you paid off somebody else's house
You did.
instead of having your own. So I think the right way to look at it for a first-time home buyer is not so much the rate, but is it affordable?
Right.
And if it's affordable, you should probably do it because just like your math shows, you're going to gain equity 2 ways. One, natural appreciation,
Correct.
3 to 5%,
Right.
right? And if you just do 3%, you're doing okay.
Right.
You're staying ahead.
Right.
And you also have the equity that you're gaining every time you make a payment.
Correct.
Whereas if you continue to rent, when you walk away from your rental agreement, you get nothing. And in many
Right.
cases, you actually have to pay to leave
Right.
because
The wear and tear.
Yeah,
and,
wear
yeah.
and tear. You don't get your deposit back. And
Right.
then they're like, oh, we had to pay an XYZ. And, so,
Now you owe us this.
Right.
Exactly.
So you pay to leave versus if you have to sell a house,
Right.
10
Walk away
years
with
from
some
now,
money.
you at least have some equity in your pocket.
Absolutely. The other thing that this article really talked about was home equity line of credits too. Like if you do stay in that home 10 years and you're like, hey, we really want a pool. Like we love this neighborhood. We love this house. We want to put in a pool. Well, you got the equity to now go borrow against your own equity and do it.
Well, and that's real because right now I have a substantial client base that got the low rates that we had 3-4 years ago.
Right.
And probably more than half of them, because cash is king, right?
Right.
More than half of them should utilize that equity to do something else rather than having all that equity sitting in the house, right?
Right.
So I've had some of them call me and take equity out for a fixed rate second to invest in a business. I've got one right now that we're waiting on construction plans because they're adding on to the house,
Okay.
borrowing another $100,000.
Yep.
I mean, this equity can be put to good use later on down the road
Right.
instead of it just sitting in the house.
For sure.
And, there's a lot of situations where, people don't plan real well.
Right.
And I'm one of them. I didn't plan real. I'm fortunate that, my daughter got a substantial scholarship.
Right.
Because aside from that, we'd have a ton of student debt
Right.
that I'd be paying off with the equity in my house.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people don't get that either is you buy a house and, 18 years later, maybe the payment was a little bit more than what you needed.
Right.
But 18 years later, you've inflation proofed yourself.
Yes.
And that payment is now very minimal as compared to what the going rent and what it would cost to buy another property And you
Yes.
can use that equity,
To do what you need at the time that your life is directly
pay
affected.
for your child's education.
Education, right, whatever you may need, for sure. I mean, that's to me, that's the thing is that if you think about it, we've talked about this before, you're basically doing a savings account for yourself every month that you're just putting money in there, forced to put money into a savings account because you're continually making your payments and it's like a forced savings account. And we've talked about how most Americans don't save, and this is a forced savings account, which then helps you create your own wealth in
Right.
essence, right?
Yep.
So again, there is no reason to wait because the interest rate's at 6 or 7% or wherever it is today. There's still no reason to wait. This is still the best time to buy a piece of real estate because we know in our area there is a chance that the market goes back to a different direction. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we will always see a natural 3 to 5% appreciation.
But most people who are buying houses, it's not a short-term investment.
No, and
I think that's the biggest thing that people fall short on is it's not like looking into the stock market and going, ooh, IBM today. I
Right.
bet you if I buy it today, I can
Could
sell
sell
it tomorrow
tomorrow.
for a 5% gain.
Right.
That's not what buying a primary residence is.
Right.
It's a long-term
It's a long-term
hold.
investment. Yeah, it is. It's a long-term hold. And I think I always tell people, hey, I need a 5 to 10 year plan based on their price point. Like, and if we're doing new construction versus resale, because if we're doing new construction, I really need an 8-year plan because if it's a new developed area, it's going to take that long for it to be built out that really you can't compete with new construction when you go to try to sell your house. It's just really hard to do because
Right.
we can't offer the incentives that the builder offers. So I always have those conversations. Hey, listen, tell me how long you're thinking this is going to be. Oh, this is going to be X amount of years or whatever. So to me, that's a very, very important part of the discussions with first-time home buyers.
I think if it's affordable, you should buy a house
100% agree.
because at some point your rent's not going to be affordable.
No, it can't stay at $1,650.
Nope.
No, it can't. And it's hard to find $1,650 now. So this was just in the example. So,
Right.
all right.
Right.
Anything else you want to add before we go about inflation proofing yourself?
I think that pretty well covers it.
Awesome. All right. If we need to get a hold of you, how can we?
You can reach me at 972-896-8790.
And you can call us at 214-662-9308. And remember, if you're looking to buy, we can help you anywhere in the United States. Find the great agent to help you and the perfect lender to help you get it done.